All right, the wait is over. It is time for the game. I'm Casey Smith, joined by Gabe Burggraf. This is a Lantern TV Sports preview show for number 2 Ohio State and number 3 Michigan. Pretty much a precursor to the college football playoff. Very big implications as the winner goes to the Big Ten Championship and most likely punches their ticket to one of those semifinal games. Gabe, who are you looking for in this matchup to really step up in this rendition of the game?
Well, I'm really interested to see quarterback C.J. Stroud's decision-making in, like you said, a de facto playoff game in the shoe. The weather, we don't know. Maybe a little bit of rain, maybe a little bit of snow. Who knows what's in the forecast. But coming off not so hot a game against Maryland because most of the scoring was done on the ground, still put up a respectable stat line on 18 completions. He's almost to 3,000 yards. He'll likely eclipse that. He probably would have outside of the outlier at Northwestern. But I'm really excited to see what he does against, this is a Michigan secondary and defense in general. You could say Penn State, probably the most comparable, or Iowa to what they're going to see. But it's going to be a different test for him to kind of read and analyze in the pocket Saturday.
Right, and this is his chance to really show out for the Heisman Trophy consideration.
Right.
Who are you seeing on Michigan's side to really potentially turn the tide and give the Wolverines the advantage in Columbus?
Absolutely. We all know about the rushing attack. Now, the availability is the question for them. So it's going to be, again, under center. J.J. McCarthy is a guy we've seen make plays, and we've seen, make a couple bad throws here and there. Same as C.J. Stroud. It'll be interesting to see what he does to this Ohio State defense and the Ohio State defense throws at him in terms of, coverage and disguises. But he did not score last week against Illinois. Jake Moody was basically the hero of that game, punching everything through to keep Michigan undefeated in 11-0. So it'll be interesting to see if they dial up some of that air raid style to try to keep up with Ohio State in this game.
Right, and it's kind of interesting you bring that up just with Ohio State's secondary, things of that nature. But Ohio State has a streak on the line. They have not lost since 2000. Gabe, I believe you were just about to be born a couple weeks. I wasn't even born yet, so neither of us were alive the last time Michigan beat Ohio State in the shoe. So Ohio State's looking to keep that trend going. Right. And, this is a team that is really coming off sort of, struggling performances. And the big thing in this game, sometimes it just comes down to getting a turnover, That can really turn the tide and shift momentum, especially if they're facing a Michigan team that really controls the time of possession, as I'm about to get to. But if Ohio State can force a turnover, something that keeps in my mind is, I believe it was the 2016 game where Malik Hooker had a pick six. That really turned the tide. And, just being able to force a turnover, Ohio State's 10th best in that department this year, getting 17 takeaways and only giving the ball away just a handful of times. Right. They're averaging about 0.82 more turnovers than they're getting 0.82 more turnovers per game than their opponent, as I'm trying to say. As for Michigan, though, their MO this season has been really controlling the clock, as I previously mentioned, and that's thanks in large part to that ground game. Who knows the status of Blake Corum or Donovan Edwards, who missed this last week? However, they're averaging almost one of the best marks in the country, just under 250 yards per game on the ground. So sort of the difference for them, like as you mentioned, is their passing game, which they really struggled with, 208 yards. And as I mentioned before, the cornerbacks of Ohio State, if you throw a 50-50 ball, who knows who's coming down with it. They have a very talented receiver in Ronnie Bell. And, if they can establish that pass game in the weather conditions that are expected here in Columbus this Saturday, Ohio State might be in for a dogfight right down to the end. Right,
and you also think about, special teams has been crucial for Ohio State. Watching back highlights of these games and just analyzing the past, there typically is, a muffed punt or something because guys are amped up and ready to go for this game. So, there might be a couple of physical or mental decisions that are a little bit different than they would be if it wasn't the game.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see exactly who that might affect.
Right. One of those special teams plays that come to mind is Chris Olave's breakout where he blocked the punt and then it was returned for a touchdown. So, all chips are in, Gabe. This is the game. First time in the shoe in 4 years. Head coach Ryan Day said he needs the fans to be as loud as possible to really try and affect
it'll be loud.
every single play.
It'll be loud there, I'm sure.
If Notre Dame was any precursor, this is probably going to surpass that tenfold. But for now, we'll have all the coverage for you for the first rendition of the game in 4 years in Ohio Stadium as Ohio State puts their home winning streak against Michigan on the line. For Gabe Burggraf, I'm Casey Smith. This has been the Lantern Sports Preview Show. Until next time, take care.